we do the same format as last time? We did.
We're already live. Yeah. Yes, beloveds all around the world, thank you for joining me tonight. We have my beautiful friend Steve, who is on his computer, and if during the satsang sometime you have any question or any comment, you're welcome, and especially when you have a question or something that you would like me to answer, then you can write it and Steve will read it to me. And then we have another beautiful guest, our dear Angela, who creates the feminine atmosphere here. And otherwise, we are connected all around the world, and this is very exciting for me and beautiful. We had a first try last week, and it really felt like you're all sitting here with me. And it's very touching because somehow we transcend time, we transcend space, and we share the one presence, the one love, the one care. Now, these satsangs, for those of you who are new with me here, they're always spontaneous. Sometimes we just sit silently at the beginning, sometimes some words come at the beginning, sometimes the words come later. Who knows? I will just go right with the moment. And tonight I just want to say a few words because there is so much happening around the world, and so many, not just cities but countries are in lockdown. And what I find here is that it's an incredible, beautiful possibility to have a retreat. There's no difference between sitting in your room because of outer circumstances versus sitting in your room and going in and retreating from a lot of the businesses of the world and daring to meet yourself. And this is something really important to discover when we go deep enough inside. Of course, on the journey inward, we cross our story, we cross our emotions, we cross our humanness, we cross our personality structure. And yet when we dare to move deeper than all these layers that I call the layers of our personality, there is a guarantee, there's a promise that has been promised by all the masters and teachers down the centuries, that if you have the courage to move deep enough, or to look, to investigate, to inquire deep enough inside yourself, that what you find is what everything in you has been longing for your whole life, in a way. And what could that be? For me it was freedom, for me it was love, for me it was space, for me it was aliveness. And all these words that we use, when we ask what do you want, and we want peace and love and aliveness and presence and fulfillment and all these wonderful things, we recognize that they are all qualities that don't have an objective quality. They point towards a space. And I call this space a field. And what we are creating tonight together, and hopefully again and again each time we meditate, is we are holding the presence of this field of consciousness that is not part of the individual, it is beyond the individual, and yet it affects each individual. And just like the fear and the anxiety and the stress that so many millions of people go through because maybe they have lost their job, or maybe they are confined and feel imprisoned, or maybe at home there is conflict, maybe all these things that arise on the level of survival have the possibility to transform. And the transformation is really very simple. It is when we dare to meet our inner experience, not park there, but going deeper, allowing any layer that we touch. It can be maybe a layer of shame, of shock, of unworthiness, of fear of survival, of material lack. All these are kind of mental layers that we can penetrate and move through them. We don't need to deny anything. We don't need to deny any darkness. We don't need to attach to any hope or light. We can just penetrate this moment somehow in a vertical line rather than in a horizontal line, which means vertically deeper and deeper and deeper. And you will be surprised that when we go deep inside, the reality of now, the living in the present moment, reveals itself as so much more gentle than anything our mind can tell us about existence. There's so many stories of fear, so many anxieties, so many stressful thoughts. And yet, when we bring natural presence to just this moment, to just feel into the body, to feel into the breath, to hear the sounds that are there without wanting to change them. I mean, here I'm a little bit privileged because the sounds that we hear here in the evening is basically sounds of nature, the frogs and the night animals, and maybe in the distance the roaring of the ocean. And behind all that is silence. And you will find when we use any sensory experience and we go behind it, we find that what we were looking for. So behind sound is silence. Behind movement, all this activity that we were busy with all the time, and suddenly we are more or less forced to be still. So behind all the movement and the frantic action is stillness, is peace. When we take it to the visual sense, behind all forms and shapes and colors and things we see, when we really go in, we see there is no thing, there is blackness. And unfortunately, many of us have been trained from the very childhood to be afraid of the night, to be afraid of darkness. And yet when, I would recommend that when you dare to sit in darkness for a while, with open eyes, when there's no light at all, then that darkness itself turns into light. Don't believe me, you need to test this, you need to try this. When we absorb the darkness, and I think tonight we're going to also have this Atisha meditation that we shared last week, because it's very, very powerful. that instead of rejecting any of our experiences, we can absorb them. And yes, our heart is big enough to absorb anything, any shame, any unworthiness, any anger, any guilt, any blame, any rage, anything, as much as any joy, any sensuousness, any openness. When we go behind the feeling sensations, we eventually touch a space, and that space, as we rest here, becomes love. And it doesn't matter really, you may even want, when you touch a tree or when you touch your beloved, and you absorb the touch inside rather than go outside to the object. This is a very tantric approach. We discover that anything that provokes any sensory experience inside is actually provoking something that arises from within rather than having its cause by an outer situation. When we find this secret, it's amazing. Then it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks of you. It doesn't matter what stories your mind or other minds are telling you. Anything that ever arises in us is arising from within. And as it has space, there's a possibility for transformation. I hope that makes any sense for you. Maybe for the new friends it may be a little advanced or strange, because everybody is so busy with watching the news and watching negative thoughts arise everywhere. And I'm not against the news, I'm also watching the news to stay informed. But once is enough, and the rest is, I would suggest the rest would be a very good idea to keep your spirits up, to keep yourself in joy, to keep yourself in love, to keep yourself in friendship, to keep yourself in that connection to so many people, even though you cannot maybe touch them in the moment or hug them in the moment or even see them in the moment. But you will find when you go deeper that there are so many people in your heart field where you share a presence. You just think of somebody with loving thoughts and you share this naturally. And then the field of love and the field of, you could say, elevated emotions spreads. And since we are all connected on all levels, just as fear and panic spreads when we give that attention, we can rise from the first three chakras, the first three energy centers, the survival of the physical in the first chakra, the fear of abandonment and energetic shock and shame and guilt and unworthiness, and all the strategies we carry in the third chakra to defend and protect and control ourselves. When these different lower chakra energies that are very helpful for survival actually transform or get refined, the bridge from the solar plexus to the heart is an incredible jump. And the situation in this world is an amazing possibility for this jump. And the more people actually open their heart to the now, the more this collective field rises and the atmosphere gets clear. And even physically, Mother Earth is relaxing. the atmosphere in all these big cities that were absolutely polluted is beginning to clear up. Wuhan, for the first time, people see the sky again. People hear the birds again. Many places around the world have become more quiet and silent. So that's a very helpful thing to put your attention to. And when I talk about it, it's interesting because I really feel all of you here. It's so easy to expand your consciousness to all these souls that are present. And presence, you all have read or heard Eckhart Tolle. The here and now, presence is such a powerful field. It's invisible. You cannot touch it or smell it or taste it, but it's a field of love. Presence and love is one thing. You know this from your lover. If you're together with somebody, and instead of being in your mind and in fear, you are present. You will find presence is love. So that's my kind of first little talk. And I would like to invite us all now to just move into a silent sitting meditation. And for those of you who are not used to meditate and think, well, I'm not a good meditator or I cannot meditate, don't worry about it, because meditation has no goal, it has no technique, it is allowing everything to be as it is. And when there's really nothing to do. When you allow everything to be as it is, all the tensions can gently relax, because things are the way they are. Your feelings are the way they are. What you see is the way it is. What you hear, we are hearing the kookaburras right now. It's like nature laughing. So meditation is no effort. And a very good sign is when, with each out-breath during the meditation, you find yourself relaxing a little bit more. Now it's helpful to sit with your spine upright, because then we can stay awake while everything else in our body-mind system relaxes. And as we share that as a field around the world, you will find it is so much easier to merge and melt inside and to let things be. Okay? So I don't know how long we're going to sit. We will just sit for a while. And maybe then, excuse me, maybe then there's a question or a comment that we can address, or we just sit a little longer, or we have a guided meditation. We see. Let's be spontaneous around this. So you can maybe adjust your body a little so that you can sit relaxed and with your spine upright. Then the energy can easily flow up and down, and you can close your eyes. And I won't guide you very much. I would just like to invite you to sit and let everything be as it is. Enjoy. Maybe we sit for about 20 minutes. And for some of you it may help if you, even if it's imagination, you can tune into the field of presence that we all share around the world, whoever is on this call, on Facebook Live right now. We're all so deeply connected. from that depth inside, just taking a deeper breath, and we're kind of coming a little bit back to the surface, just like a deep sea diver comes up to the surface. We can take a few deep breaths. We can stretch the body a little bit. Feeling the body again, only to later in a few minutes to dive even deeper back inside. But at this moment, as we kind of taking a breath and coming back to the surface, if there's anything you want to share or any question that you have, that could be a good moment to ask. I'm usually better in talking when I can respond to some question or request or insight. And please feel free to share or ask anything. And if you would like me to talk about any specific topic, let me know. I know it's always a little tricky. First we go deep in meditation, we touch a deep silence, and then I ask you to share. And maybe there is nothing to share or to ask, because who we truly are is already whole, complete. And as we touch the inner space, very naturally all questions answer themselves. Stephen gives me a sign, so there is a question or something.
We have a question from Kuala Lumpur.
Ah, from Kuala Lumpur, okay.
From Emily.
Emily.
Dr. Emily.
Dr. Emily, I hope you are well. You're doing such an amazing work. Dr. Emily is a beautiful medical doctor that is at the forefront of the corona crisis in Kuala Lumpur, helping people to heal and support them. So please, yes.
Her question is, Dear Rahasya, in these difficult times, tempers are frayed and everyone is on edge. How is the best way we can be with another? Do we need to be kind to ourselves or to the other two?
That's a very good question. I think the first step is, of course, to be really kind to yourself and kind to the fears you are touching, and kind to the insecurity, and kind to the not knowing. You know, all these words point towards states of being that we were so programmed to deny or to reject or not to feel. And now they're all in our face. So you cannot be kind to somebody else unless you're really kind to yourself. And what does it mean to be kind to yourself? It means to see when judgments about yourself come up. You see that when ideals come, because we are so trained to follow ideals, how we should be and how we should not be. But on the level of consciousness or nature doesn't have any ideals. It just is. So the kindness to yourself is the recognition within you that all your experiences, the positive ones and the challenging ones, are already held in the kindness of being. And when I talk about being now here, it's not the personal being, it's the universal being. Call it, in Buddhism, it's called Buddha nature. In religion, Christianity, it's called God. In Islam, it's called Allah. It is pointing towards that infinite space that's already here. Just our attention is not there because space is not a thing. Just like kindness is not a thing, it is our nature. And we have unfortunately unlearned kindness. We have been so stressed about having to be in a certain way or not being in another way. So as you become kind to your own limitations and fears, you naturally bring your attention to the space which holds it all. And then out of that, it is much more easy to be kind to others, because you will notice the whole world now, millions and millions of people are exactly in the same situation. The situation is insecure for the mind. The situation is insecure for the body, because there's a fear that the body may get sick or a hope that the body may stay healthy. There is, we share all these things, everyone. And if we follow then the old mind that knows only worry, it knows war, it knows conflict, it knows judgment, it knows blame, it knows all these things that keep us separate, that is where unkindness or also domestic violence is quite prevalent. And for example. And as you become kind to your own fears, which means, and later we're going to have a meditation that supports that, then your fears are held. And then the attention goes further than the fear. It actually moves into love. And the end of fear is the total experience of fear. Now in the moment. Yeah, we have been disconnected for a moment, but I hope you can see me again and hear me again. So yes, loving kindness. You see, this is the Dalai Lama speaks a lot about what is his religion. It is loving kindness. It is a practice until we discover that it is our nature. You just need to look at a young child before it's conditioned. It is loving and kind. Everything in nature is loving and kind. So it's very helpful to allow the kindness. I hope that answers your question.
Got a question from Ishka.
Ishka. Hi Ishka, beautiful Ishka. I read your blogs sometimes and it's so beautiful. You're such a poet. You're such an amazing, unique being. And when you talk about your experience with nature and your dog, it's just very, very touching. So let's hear.
Can Can you give your explanation as to why I have no questions? This time in my life feels the safest I've ever felt.
Yes. You gave your explanation. The explanation is you let yourself be. You don't need to listen or focus on other people's opinions. You don't need to kind of hear other people's judgments, positive or negative. You don't need to hear all the fears and insecurities that everybody has his own story around it. And you're just alone with yourself. And that's why it feels so safe. Because you are, in your being, you are safety. And then what arises out of the being, if I read your blogs or your comments on Facebook and seeing your beautiful notes, also with your dog, that is arising from the love that you are. So why is the wrong question? The answer is already there. You feel the safest. Isn't that amazing? And in that safety, in the middle of the biggest insecurity that probably most people ever around the world are experiencing. What a wonderful contradiction. It just shows you that outer circumstances have nothing to do with your inner safety and your inner peace. It is just now we are giving the opportunity to go in and meet ourselves in the rawness of who we are, without comfort, without sugarcoat, without even the need to be somebody else, because there's nobody around. That's the beauty of isolation. That's the beauty of retreat. So you're blessed. Thank you. Okay. Now, when we have an audience in satsang, I invite the friends to come with me on the couch. And here's a very special friend that comes with me on the couch. This is Steve, or Premdas. Premdas is the servant of love. Hi, Premdas.
Hello. I want to talk about two things that go together, and that is fear, and that is death. And you said something. You said when you fully meet the experience, may that experience be fear. It's a complete transformation of whatever that experience is into space or presence. So the reason why I want to share, I remember you said before in the past that all fear is ultimately the fear of death.
Yes.
Right. So I've had a situation that's very similar to what's happening now around the world. So it was a situation where I had a health issue and I was told I could very much die. Right. I had a young family. And so what did I do? I wanted to fight the situation. I said no to death, right? But I didn't accept. I couldn't even accept the whole idea of death. I couldn't accept the whole idea that suddenly I was in a situation where I was going to die, potentially. So when I was diagnosed, I had 3 days of complete chaos. I'd be fine 1 minute, I'd be crying the next minute, I'd be hysterical. When I'd go up to my room, into my shower, and I'd cry in the shower, hysterically. And I didn't know you then. I didn't know I wasn't a spiritual guy then, actively.
You were always spiritual, but
Actively.
yeah.
And but then what happened one day was I was up in the room because I was getting hysterical, and I was in the shower and I was crying, and then suddenly I got a question, and it was like, do you want to live or die? And I just said, I'm going to live, right? But the next thing that happened is the bigger, more important thing, is that the next thing that happened was I said to myself, live, but I accept that I could die. And in that moment, everything changed. Like in that moment, you know, I had to really be pushed to the edge to do this. So I know it would be hard for a lot of the people around the world to even consider this. But it was so in my face, and I had 2 young kids, a beautiful family, and you know, and I thought I was resisting the whole idea of death, and then suddenly, I don't know how it happened. Grace. And then I just said, like, okay, I could die. It was very gentle. It was very real. It was very. And then what happened was I just came into complete calm. You know, I came into presence, like I had been so busy all my life until this point. And I stepped out of the shower, and then I saw my kids come in, and then we played with the blocks, and like, it was so different. It was like every microsecond was a very heightened thing that was happening. Presence. But the main thing I wanted to say is, because you said this just a minute ago, you said, you know, when you fully experience your fear, the fear goes, right? That's not exactly what happened to me, but I just accepted that I could die. I accepted death. And my fear of death went. It totally went. You know? And then everyone around me was worried, but I was kind of fine.
Now, maybe this is especially for the audience, how I understand it today, and of course my understanding keeps changing. It's like our deepest fear, it looks like it's our physical death, but that's not the death we're talking about. I think our deepest fear, if I look at myself also, when I get triggered, or I recently had kind of a heartbreak that kind of touched my heart quite strongly. And I again and again realize, it's like, what is a heartbreak? A heartbreak is the dissolution of a sense of self that I thought myself to be. And I think the biggest fear for all of us is the fear of the ego to die, the fear of the separate sense of self to die, the fear of, my God, now I'm sick, and then the body goes. But most of the people are not sick. All these people are, that are in isolation, they are not sick. They're actually very fortunate because they're going through a whole process. But the fear, which is, I think, very human, is the fear of my sense of self that I have put so much energy into it to build up. And how do we build it up? With success, with money, with relationship, with love, with our life situation that we then identify with. And suddenly this whole life situation is put on stop. Isn't it incredible? I mean, that creates an incredible panic for many people. Unless, and this is why we are sharing this here, unless we dare to look into the truth of who we really are. And that is very individual, where we don't believe any of our story, we tell ourselves who we are. And it's not denying our achievements, it's not denying the beauty of life, it's not denying the beauty of love and relationship and all of this. But the moment, and we all have done that, the moment we create a sense of self and identity through any of these things that come and go, it's like body. Now my body has become a little bit older, and I'm very aware that when I go into anxiety, sometimes I'm anxious that I'm already too old for everything that I want to do, which is of course nonsense. I can still, I'm a lucky guy, my body is very fit. But it's another identification, the identification with a fit body. And now there's a chance that this body can be, sick or can die. No? And so in my understanding, and that of course, it's everybody else has maybe a different understanding, but in my understanding, the deepest fear is not the fear of death, it's the fear of life.
Right.
Yeah, it's the fear of living really to the fullest in all dimensions, and at the same time in that living, being aware that everything comes and goes. Youth comes and goes, strength comes and goes, health comes and goes, money comes and goes. For many people, job comes and goes. Everything comes and goes. And as long, and hopefully we get kind of pushed into looking, since everything that looks so safe is coming and going, which means it's threatened. Our existence as a sense of self is threatened. And hopefully, more and more people around the world wake up to something that is so obvious, which is the space in which everything comes and goes. And to express that in a few simple words that can shake us to the roots is, well, who am I actually if I'm not everything that comes and goes? Because obviously there is a presence, there is an awareness, there is a space that is watching everything that comes and goes. That's the whole purpose of meditation. Until you realize, my God, I am and I have always been that which is aware of all experience. Can you follow that? The audience here? I have to repeat it. I am that, and that has never been able to be defined. That's a strange thing. Who I really am can only be kind of pointed towards, I'm that which is aware of all experience, of everything that comes and goes. So the only thing, like Ishka said so beautifully, I feel suddenly so safe because everything can be exactly as it is, which means life can really live through us in its most incredible and strange and unexpected ways. And all that is ever here is that which is aware. And then sometimes we forget. And sometimes we have a heartbreak. And sometimes we get triggered. And sometimes everything, our personality doesn't change. But the viewpoint or the space in which it happens becomes more and more clear. And that is the deepest safety. Then life, then we can live life. We don't need to control it, because each time we control anything is we hold on to a separate sense of self. And then the existence and life itself becomes an enemy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what people are afraid of, because now so many people are terribly scared because they have no future, they have no job, they have no money, they have, they don't know where they're going to buy their next bread from. And then, the experiences shift. One person is absolutely in bliss because every security has disappeared, and another person is completely in panic because every security has disappeared. But that which is aware in both has never changed. And then comes the next deep insight. Now when I talk about it, it's not the truth, it's just a concept, but maybe a pointer. That this I, the true I, that which is aware of all experience, is the same in you. It's the same in you. It's the same in you. It's not even the same because it's not two. It's one consciousness. It's like one tree with billions of leaves. And we are the leaves, but the tree is one. And if this dawns on all these wonderful people that are in lockdown now, what a world is possible. And there I become a dreamer. I feel, my God, what an opportunity for all of us. What an opportunity to not park in any definition that we have given ourselves. And it doesn't mean to deny your gifts. Everyone is so gifted just because existence has given us life. And the purpose is really to live it. To live, and life is, life is not so much about survival. The body knows how to survive. The body knows how to jump away out of the street when a truck comes. Yeah? So the survival mechanism is great. But then so many of us are in mental survival. Mm-hmm. They're not threatened, they're totally spoiled by existence already. Like for example here we are living in paradise. There's a beach nearby and the nature is strong and everything. And yet we can still, if we believe our minds, be in complete survival. And forget that which is aware of all experience. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, the fear, it's beautiful. So what you're sharing with the fear of the physical death is that it disappeared in total surrender of the possibility. Mm-hmm. No? Which means that creates a space of acceptance. That creates a space that we can call heart. That creates, and we can perhaps practice it like the Buddhists practice it a lot. But in my experience, the practice is only a pointer towards our essence that is already there. And when that essence wakes up, we don't need to practice anything. It's already there. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you, that's beautiful. And you're still around.
Oh yeah.
Fantastic.
Very much around.
Very much around. Now let's have a look if there's any other question coming up. Otherwise we're going to go into the Atisha meditation.
There is a question from Camilla.
Camilla, our yoga Camilla?
Camilla Rosan.
I don't know. I don't know what your last name is. But anyway, welcome Camilla.
She says, I feel nourished, but when I come back to the surface, all the programs slowly rise again. How to deal with this? Also, I'm also in conflict in my home, besides the total lockdown.
Yeah.
This is an issue for lots and lots of couples.
That's what I tried to kind of mention before. The difficulty at home gets worse when there's family, when there's partner, and both share their own individual survival fears. And then the tendency, which is very natural in us, is to make the other responsible for how we feel. And that leads to incredible conflicts, and it leads to even domestic violence, and it leads to very, very deep hurts. Now, these hurts have been waiting to come up, but they can only come up and heal in an environment where there is space. So this makes meditation really, really crucial. This makes mutual agreements between the partners or the families very important. It's like, now we are both in survival, now we are both in panic, now we are not responsible for each other's panic, but let's make an agreement that we don't act out of panic, but we dare to face ourselves. We dare to meet our insecurities. The other is not responsible. Now, that brings us to a place that you may not like when I say this, but every one of us is responsible for our inner state. And that responsibility grows when we are aware of our inner state. When you are aware of being in survival, then you begin to have a choice. And the choice is follow the addiction, because survival is an addiction. It's an addiction to adrenaline, to cortisol, to all these stress hormones that prepare the body for fight and flight. And please, when you're at home and caught with a partner or with a dysfunctional situation, the one of you that is more aware, gently stop. Because you will know that, I call it the third chakra, the fighting spirit, the defenses. The third chakra doesn't have ears. You can argue as much as you want. The third body that is ready to fight and battle cannot hear anything that is being said. So you can discuss endlessly, but nobody hears. So please take responsibility and say, stop. And then you can invite each other. It's like, okay, I am completely helpless right now. I feel deeply hurt. I'm in deep, deep pain. Now, let's give each other and myself the space to feel the pain, to feel the hurt. It's like, I can totally relate to this, because we especially in relationship, we are actually, like Miten sings it so beautifully, we're actually looking in these dire moments for the mother. We're looking for the mama, that we can be at their breasts and feel comforted. But your husband cannot be your mama. Your child cannot be your mama. We are all little children in these moments. And we need to dare to kind of open to the hurt that may be centuries old, or maybe in this life, years old. Now it's the time to meet the hurt, to meet the pain. It's like yesterday evening I had a moment where I just was crying and crying and crying, and actually it's very sweet when you dare to let it just break open. Don't be afraid of heartbreak. Let it break and let the sadness or whatever is touched, let it open. And in that opening you will discover there is a space where you can be yourself that is held. But very practically you need to make a decision together whether you want to go down into the darkness of unconsciousness and keep battling until death. But this physical death is not the death of the ego. Your ego will survive and find a new body, so it's a waste of time. Physical domestic violence is a waste of time, and nobody deserves it. If the man is violent to the woman doesn't deserve it. No matter what your argument is. Dear man, if you have the tendency to be violent, face your hurt, face your fear, face your insecurity, face your helplessness. It doesn't diminish you as a man. It opens you into the depths and presence of being a man. And there's a very beautiful thing to be present. And if the violence is more from the feminine side is more an emotional side. And a woman's negative emotion can be so devastating for the man, because the man is looking for the mama. So women
yeah.
We're all looking for the mama. But it's worse, the man is even worsely equipped to be mama than the woman. The woman is even a little bit equipped to be mama. No? So please be aware when you dump your negative emotions onto the man, because man is passive in his second chakra, in his emotional body, and he freaks out and gets into shock when your woman gets emotional. And he feels so helpless that all he can do is scream and yell and become violent. No? So you're both responsible. No? And it's not needed, because all that's needed is to turn in. This is why these meetings and meditation becomes crucial. No? So Kimila, I understand. No? If you're the yoga Kimila, I love you very dearly, and I feel, you're such a beautiful, radiant being. But don't park in your light. Let the light open up to that which is maybe still dark within you. Because in presence and awareness, darkness and light have the same value, the same depth. They can be both held in that who you are. And that who you are, that space that you are, reveals itself in meditation. I hope that makes sense to you. Now, as a very practical meditation, and I would recommend, even though we did it last time, you can listen to the last recording. I would like to introduce it to the new people tonight and to the old friends, because it's a very important meditation. It is originated, I learned it through the Book of Wisdom from Osho, where he talked about the heart transformation that an old teacher, Buddhist teacher, Atisha has shared with the world. And the practical wisdom in it is that the heart, in Zen it's called the empty heart. The heart is space. The heart is consciousness. And space is infinite. So what we can actually do or allow when our awareness is there is to absorb any of our suffering into the heart, which means it lifts the vibrational field from survival into the heart. And when we absorb our suffering in the heart, it dissolves in emptiness. And then we can breathe out the blessings of space and love and understanding back into these areas that were held in suffering. And then we can extend it, when we feel ready, we can extend it to friends and family, because there's a lot of friends and family that are in agony and suffering and guilt and fear and shakiness. No? And then we can extend it to all beings. Now this is very big. No? But I think many of you, at least I have that sometimes in wave. I feel these waves of insecurity and suffering, and we believe it's personal, but it's not personal. It is what's going around the world. And when we get a little bit of distance, we see that even our thoughts that arise from there are not even our thoughts. It's a collective field of anxiety. And when we become aware of it, it can be absorbed and transformed, not through the I, but through the no I, through the space. Should we try that? Okay. Again, if you could sit comfortably with your spine upright. And this time I'm going to guide the meditation. And for some of you guidance helps, and for some of you it's a nuisance. If it's a nuisance for you, let it through. No need to listen. Just enjoy the space. Okay? So close your eyes. Take a few deep, conscious breaths. Breathing in deeply. And breathing out deeply. One more time. Deep in breath. And deep out breath. And one more time. Deep in breath. And deep out breath. And then gently bring your attention to the heart center, to that energy center in the middle of your chest. And you will notice wherever we put our attention to is where our energy flows. So as you become attentive to the heart, you can begin to feel the energy in your heart, in your chest. And there's nothing to change. Maybe your heart feels closed or aching. Let it ache. Or maybe your heart feels open and comforted. Let it be comforted. And maybe your heart feels grateful. Let it be grateful. Now, whatever the experience is in the heart right now, we could say the surface of the heart is more the feeling side of the being. So how does your heart feel? Open or closed? Alive or sad? And now you can imagine with each in-breath that experience expands. And with each out-breath there's a letting go deeper into the heart. You can allow your imagination with that. that suddenly you begin to recognize that heart is not a substance, it's not the pumping station, it's a field. So with each out-breath, we can melt into the heart until we realize the heart is actually an opening. So with each in-breath, we expand the experience of this moment, and with each out-breath, we let go deeper into the heart. And in a way we could say with each in-breath we are expanding the known experience of this moment. And with each out-breath we falling deeper than this experience, which means we're falling into the unknown, into a space of not knowing. Allow that with each out-breath to go deeper. And then we begin to recognize that we can naturally melt deeper than all these different experiences of our personality. We can melt deeper than thoughts, and it doesn't mean thoughts need to go away. They are just like clouds in the inner space, in the inner sky. And we can melt deeper than emotions and feelings. Maybe another layer of clouds, and they can continue. And yet there's a space deeper than emotion. And we can melt deeper than body sensations. And deeper into the heart than the breath. And deeper into the heart than even the heartbeat, that experience of the pump. And then eventually deeper than all experiences. And when we ask ourselves right now, well, who am I, or what is deeper in the heart than all experiences? The mind can only say there is no thing, there is just space. A deep nothingness, just like the sky, just like the universe. And that very simple revelation, that deeper than all experience, the I am is empty, is like empty like the open sky. That recognition can be used for a deep healing of the body-mind. Now, any suffering that you're aware of within yourself, we can invite, riding on the in-breath, inviting it into your own heart, into the channel of the heart. And as it flows, as our suffering, it feels so solid, as it flows through the heart, it dissolves in the empty sky. It's just like every cloud in nature eventually dissolves on a sunny day, effortlessly. And the out-breath then can carry the blessings of light, of peace, of healing back into the body-mind and touching or filling these places that were occupied by suffering. So any pain, any heartache, any bellyache, any hurt, you can invite riding on the in-breath, enter the heart, flow through the heart and dissolve in emptiness. And the out-breath can carry the blessings of peace, of healing, of space, back into the body-mind, filling those places that were occupied by pain. So each in-breath, welcoming all your own suffering, any story, any hurt, any fear, any anxiety. Let it all ride on the in-breath, flow through the heart and dissolve in the inner emptiness. And the out-breath can carry the blessings of peace, of healing, of love back into the body-mind. And perhaps you can feel how things begin to relax. Things begin to have space. Maybe 3 more deep breaths just with yourself. Inviting, riding on your in-breath, any suffering that you're aware of. Physical, emotional, mental. Let it flow through your heart and dissolve in the empty sky of your being. Just like the morning mist dissolves when the sun rises. And the out-breath can carry the blessings of silence, of peace, of healing back into the body-mind. One more time in your own rhythm, absorbing all your suffering. The heart is big enough, it's as big as the whole universe. It's our inner universe. And breathing out blessings, healing, love. And you may feel perhaps that the vibrational field within you is lighter and lighter and lighter. Now when you feel ready, only if you feel ready you can continue with yourself, but when you feel ready you can expand the heart to friends, to family, to people close to you. And there's a lot of suffering, insecurity, anxiety. So you can allow their suffering, because on the level of space we are all one, so we can allow your family's suffering, your friends' suffering to ride on the in-breath, enter the heart, flow through the heart and dissolve in the inner sky. And it's not something we do, it just happens naturally. And the out-breath can carry the blessings of peace, of healing, of compassion, of love, back to the friends and family. Breathing in suffering, breathing out blessings. breathing in suffering. Let it right on the in-breath just flow like an open river flowing into the heart and dissolving in the inner sky. And the out-breath can carry the blessings of peace and healing, comfort and support back to the friends and family. And like this we hold them tenderly in space. And allowing that with each in-breath very consciously. And there's no need to hold anybody's suffering in your psyche or in your energy field. Just let your heart be an open passage, riding on the in-breath, absorbing suffering from your friends and family and your own, flowing through the heart, dissolving in emptiness. And the out-breath, blessings, love, peace, silence, healing. Maybe 3 more breaths in your own rhythm. Trusting that natural flow. Now, you can continue like this, or just with yourself. And if you feel ready, needs a little courage, but it's possible and easy. We can open to the suffering of the whole world. Now, allow it to flow like a stream into your heart. Don't hold it here. Let it flow right through your heart and let it evaporate in the empty sky. Sometimes I have the picture, like a chimney that at first kind of has this big smoke coming out, and the smoke simply suddenly dissolves into the blue sky and it's gone. In the same way, you can allow even the thickest clouds of suffering that goes around the world to be absorbed in your heart. It's a miracle. Our heart is so vast, so endless. It can absorb all suffering. And the out-breath can carry the blessings of peace, of healing, of silence, of comfort, back to all people, back to all beings. Another deep breath, riding on the in-breath. Any suffering, let it come right through. Let it dissolve in the inner sky. And breathing out blessings. Breathing out the blessings of the divine being that we are. With healing, with love, with gentleness. And 3 more deep breaths. the in-breath absorbing in your heart all suffering. And let it dissolve, and breathing out blessings and healing and love and silence. And 2 more times in your own rhythm. And then you can take a very deep breath and let it all go. And just for a few minutes, let's just fall into the depths of presence and silence that connects us all. Feel the connection through your heart to all these friends that are online with us today, and all the other hearts that are ready to allow that vibration in their chest. Yes, a deep breath. Gently becoming aware of this physical body again. Maybe a little stretch. Maybe you want to sit a little bit longer for yourself. And I want to thank you so much for being part of this together. I could feel you so much. And I wish you a very blessed rest of the day. For some of you it's evening, for some of you it's morning. And we will connect again latest on Friday. Or you can connect every day by allowing yourself a time for meditation. Thank you so much for tonight. Many blessings and namaste.